At this point, it'd be a good idea to check the bolts, and the bolts should work freely. If there's debris inside, with the drive bars removed now, you can pull the bolts out. You can check inside the chamber, make sure it's clean, and again, your bolts should work freely, floating up and down. There's a spring at the bottom of the chamber to help activate the bolt. The bolts on the top and the bottom module are 3 pieces, and they are reversible. The body of the module itself can be taken out and turned either way. The bolt designates the handing. The top of the bolt slides off, and then you have 2 parts to the body. They go together like a puzzle. Can only go together one way, and they're marked. It says up. So they've got to be pointing towards the top of the door. You've got to be sure that the bolt is installed properly, and it tells you which side is up. This side is pointing up, and it is a left-handed door, so I set the bolt like that. Okay? Same with the top module. Check for clean operation. Reversible module. Okay? At this point, we can take the mortise lock out of the panel. To check the mortise lock for proper operation, the Allen screws have to be installed in the down position. They have to be screwed down, as if holding the bars. If the Allen screws are raised up, it prevents the mortise lock from locking and unlocking. So I've lowered the Allen screws, and the lock should work as it does just fine. I can lock it with the thumb turn, and the panic feature allows me to unlock it with the lever. Or I can lock it with the thumb turn and unlock it as well with the thumb turn. In the lock position, again, the panic feature's on the inside. From the outside, your lever is frozen and will not unlock the door. Okay? This time, I'm removing the external hardware, interior and exterior scutcheons. I'm going to set these carefully to the side. And you'll note on the exterior scutcheon, the cylinder, keyed cylinder is installed. And both the interior and exterior escutcheons have a small 3/4 inch aluminum drive rod, 3/4 inch aluminum drive rod. And this drive rod connects the lever on the interior and exterior escutcheons to the mortise lock. It's not a through bar. It doesn't run completely through the mortise lock. There's a 3/4 bar on both sides. In an emergency situation, if a consumer can't lock the door, one option, until somebody can get out there to fix it, is to take the hardware off and remove the 3/4 inch drive bar from the exterior side. And what this is doing is making the exterior hardware a passive lever. You can still lock the door. Perhaps you can't lock the door, but if the door latches and you can't lock the door, there's no way to access the house from outside. There's nothing to drive the lock open. Take the 3/4 bar out, set it aside until we can get you out there to fix it. Okay? The mortise lock, to get that out, if you take a small tool, after removing the screws on each end, simply pulls out. Okay? Mortise locks are reversible. In the deadbolt position, the bolt can be lifted off, can be turned either way. Easily slides back on. Once the cover plate's installed, the bolt can't be removed. If it's unlocked, the bolt can't be removed. Okay? You've got your slot for your cylinder tailpiece, and you've got your opening for your 3/4 inch dry bar on both sides. The black plastic covers allow access to the internal cams, which set up your panning feature on the interior and your safety feature on the exterior. This is the exterior side, and you can see this cam. It's got a squared off nose on top, and when installed, that nose bumps into this small white plastic wheel. In the lock position, this cam cannot pull down on that white plastic wheel. On the interior side, you'll note that the cam wraps around the top of the plastic wheel. And that feature, when pulling down the lever, allows the lock to open, or known as a panic feature hardware set. The long cam to the interior, the short cam to the exterior. To change the handing, you turn the bolt around and reverse the cams. These simply lift off, turn them around, and install them on either side. Make sure that you install them so that they're pointing towards this bar, which activates the lock. For a key application, for somebody who wants keyed cylinders on the interior and the exterior, you want two short cams, both on the interior and the exterior, so there's no panic feature at all. That's the mortise lock. Rarely, if ever, will you have to take this apart to get inside. If there's a broken part, typically we replace the whole mortise lock. They're available left and right-handed, but once you get to know them, very easy to change the handing. Okay. We're now ready to install the internal components on the 3-point lock. I've got the mortise lock set up with the proper handing. Drop the mortise lock into the edge of the panel, and if for some reason it seems to hang up, you can take a thin putty knife and help it by kind of shimmying the mortise lock into place. The edge of the mortise lock sometimes catches on the prep or on the door panel. Shimmy it in. Use a thin piece of aluminum or a putty knife. I'm going to install the 2 wood screws. Secure the mortise lock to the panel. And important, never over tighten the screws. You want to tighten the screws snug, but don't over tighten. If for some reason things may not line up, you might have to loosen the screws a little bit. Or sometimes if you over-tighten the screws on your hardware escutcheons, it can restrict the lock from working properly. At this point, again, the lock has to be in the locked, deadbolted position, which it isn't right now. Put it in the deadbolted position, and take the alignment key, one of the two alignment keys, and install it into the slotted opening just above the bolt. In the factory, when they install the hardware, they use this alignment key to maintain positioning of the bars inside the mortise lock. I'm going to loosen the top Allen screw, take the top drive bar, and check it to make sure it's straight both ways. Make sure it's not crowned this way. This way is a little easier to correct, but if you have a crowned drive bar, you might consider replacing it on older doors. With the Allen screw now loose, my alignment key in position at the mortise lock, I'm going to install the top drive bar. And it's important to note that now you want to keep your slot facing up towards the edge of the panel. And again, that slot will help align the bar with the alignment key. If you recall the pins in the middle of each drive bar, to get the pins past the bolts, simply push down the bolt until the top of the bolt is even with the top of the module. Let the bolt spring up again. Using your forceps, grab the last 1/4 inch of the drive bar, and you'll hear the drive bar hitting the mortise lock. But at this point, we need to be sure that the bolt is the same as the center bolt, which is in the locked position. So to do that, to set the top module, simply pull up on the bolt, push the drive bar in, and at this point, your bolt should stay in the locked position. Your second alignment key can now be used to find the slot on the drive bar. As mentioned earlier, your alignment keys for the top and the bottom module are always installed towards the upper side of the bolt. Put a little pressure on the alignment key, pull back 1/32 to a 1/16 of an inch, and your alignment key should drop down into the slot on the drive bar, which it did. At this point, tighten your Allen screws snug. Pull your alignment key and your forceps. And you're ready to set the bottom drive bar. Loosen the Allen screw, 2 to 3 turns. Take my bottom drive rod, and again, double check the drive rod to make sure it's straight both ways, looking at it vertically, and also checking it to make sure it's not crowned. A crowned drive bar can prohibit the lock from working, especially on older doors.